Good morning. Welcome to the Thinking Partner. Let me start by painting a picture for you. Picture this. You're in the room where it happens. The meeting you've been working on for ages. You've been moving towards it for weeks. A potential big client, a partnership, an organization that could change the trajectory of your business. They ask you a question. It's a really good question. It's the kind of question you've answered 100 times before that you know the answer to, and your mind goes completely blank. It might just be for a few seconds, but it feels like forever. Certainly enough time for you to feel it, probably long enough that you feel like they might be waiting, and definitely more than long enough for you to get that little voice in the back of your head that goes, "What the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you?" I promise nothing is wrong with you, but something is going on with your brain. And once you understand it, once you see some of the evidence, the information, you'll probably decide that pushing through is a tactic that you never want to fully rely on again. And that's what this video is about. So my name is Annette Corbett. I'm a thinking partner for women founders who have become the bottleneck in their own business. You're watching The Thinking Partner. That's what this is called. It's a video series exploring the evidence behind what happens when we don't give enough space for ourselves to think, and what becomes possible when we do give ourselves that space. So let's start with the main culprit, let's call it cortisol. You've probably heard of it. I think it's kind of commonly known as the stress hormone. When you're under pressure, your body releases cortisol. And in small doses, in like genuinely urgent situations, it's actually incredibly useful. It sharpens your focus. It gets you moving. Evolutionarily speaking, it like gets you out of danger. It removes you from threat and it makes you very aware of threat. But that's the important key. It's supposed to be in small doses at genuinely urgent situations. That's where cortisol works in your favor. But when cortisol is elevated consistently, not in like a crisis moment, but like day after day, week after week, month after month, it starts to actually affect a specific part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. Now, if you want to think about what the prefrontal cortex does, imagine it as like the CEO of your brain. It's the part responsible for decision making, for creative thinking, for reasoning, complex reasoning, strategic planning, all that kind of stuff that needs to interpret lots of different things and lots of different steps. It's where your best thinking happens. And it's the part of your brain, arguably, that does exactly what you built your business on. A chronic stress, that kind that comes from never stopping, never having space to properly decompress, never giving your proper time to rest, that affects that prefrontal cortex significantly. And the evidence shows that those kind of sustained elevated cortisol levels actually impair precisely the kind of cognitive functions that this part of your brain is responsible for. So again, decision making, the creative thinking, the lateral thinking, the strategic reasoning. In other words, the thinking you most need, the vision, the creative problem solving, the complex calls that you have to make all the time as a founder, as a leader. All of that is being impaired by the very pressure you are putting on yourself to get all the things done all the bloody time. That moment in the meeting when your mind goes blank, that was the CEO of your brain running on empty, basically. It's like failing to fire the way it usually does. It has a name, it has a cause, it's not a you problem. I want to talk a little bit more about that. So here's what I find kind of most striking, I suppose, about this, or most relevant for you as a founder, probably watching this video. The thinking that suffers most under sustained pressure isn't the routine stuff. I imagine you're great at, when you're feeling under pressure and stressed out, you're probably great at responding to all your emails and thinking, I'll clear my inbox and I'll feel better. Familiar tasks, habitual decisions, things you do, that you've done 100 times, those kind of well-worn ruts of decisions and activities and behaviors, they hold up really well, even when we're depleted. What gets suppressed first is, now it's referred to as divergent thinking. So it's that kind of lateral creative thinking that generates new ideas, that sees around corners, if you like, that finds ways to solve problems in unexpected ways. In other words, it's the thinking that most distinguishes you probably from other people. Arguably, it's the thinking that distinguishes a great founder from a good one. It's the vision stuff, it's the creative strategy, it's the ability to see things that other people don't see. And that's exactly what goes first when you get this elevated level of cortisol and stress and pushing through. So when you're pushing through, you're actually eliminating the conditions that, under which you can do your best thinking. You're eliminating the conditions under which your best thinking can happen. Good morning, Stephen. Lovely to see you joining it. And the harder you push, the less access you have to the thinking that could actually move things forward. So hopefully at this point, you're beginning to see why pushing through is so counterproductive. I'm going to go off piece just for a second. There's something else I want to mention briefly that I think it probably needs a whole video of its own. I will give it a whole video focus at some point, because it's something that compounds all of this, and it's called decision fatigue. Even as I say the words, I'm sure you know exactly what this means. But in summary, like the basic kind of science behind it, the finding is that the more decisions you make, the less able you are to make good ones. So cognitive resources genuinely like deplete across the day. It might be by, you talk about and doing something in the morning, then you get to the afternoon, you're like, oh, I'm going to come back to it tomorrow when I've got a fresh head. It's that kind of phrase. Every decision, big ones, small ones, medium ones, random ones, all draws on the same finite pool of mental bandwidth. And by the time you get to the important ones, if you're the person who is pushing the strategic thinking to later in the day because you want to like make quiet time for it and you want to get the other stuff out of the way first, by the time you do get to it, your brain is already running low. You're trying to do your most important thinking with your most knackered head. I was thinking about this actually. There's a reason why people like Steve Jobs, all those lot, talked about wearing the same thing every day and having a cupboard full of the same clothes, because removing trivial decisions from the equation, even those really tiny things, the way I understand it, that was like a deliberate strategy to protect the cognitive resource for the things that actually mattered. Not that I'm suggesting you spend your life wearing black roll necks. Let's not get too drastic. This is definitely something I'm going to go into much deeper, and some of the fascinating research behind it, and also how I think it's a gendered issue as well in a future episode. But for now, just know that it's as a thing, that it's measurable, that it's almost certainly affecting you. Another thing that I'm going to mention in future, because I've been talking a lot about what this does to your brain, but I also want to flag up something else before I start to wrap up today, because this doesn't just affect your thinking. Sustained cortisol elevation has significant physical effects as well. Your sleep, your immune system, your energy levels, your digestion. It affects systems all throughout your body, because the brain and the body are not separate systems. I think we're very used to thinking about them in that way. I know plenty of people who are tempted to think of their bodies as just the vehicles to carry around their clever brains. What's happening in one is happening in the other. And this is another thing I'll be coming back to in a future episode, because I think it's something we often neglect or underestimate, but it is something that's really important. So for now, just hold that thought. If that sounds intriguing, you're going to want to stick with these videos. So what does this all actually mean for you? It means that that blank moment in a meeting is not, it's not a personal failure. It's not you getting something wrong. It's a signal. It means that the circling decisions, the strategic thinking that never quite gets done, the creative vision that used to come more easily, they're not signs that you've lost your edge. They're signs that you've been running your most sophisticated cognitive processes in conditions that make them almost impossible. And it means that creating space to think, prioritizing space to think, it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be something, well, it's not something you earn by finishing all the other stuff first. It should be a prerequisite because it's the condition under which everything else becomes possible. So I just want to leave you with that thought. I'll be here every Wednesday with another piece of this puzzle. If any of what I've said resonates, if that moment in the meeting has happened to you, or if you've got this backlog of decisions, or the strategic thinking keeps getting pushed to tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and if that sounds really familiar, I'd love to hear from you. Just drop me a comment or a message. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And since these are now on YouTube, if you want to make sure you don't miss future episodes, you can subscribe to my channel, which is a whole new thing. There's a lot more of this to come. But for now, take care of yourself, and I will see you very soon. Bye.